a podcast to honor the gods.
This better come with a sacrifice.
Dave X Media.
I'm Christina Kahn.
And I'm Leela Hilton.
And this is Burn Before Reading, the podcast about shiterature.
We're here to examine the terrible writing we did when we were younger and talk about other cringy literary topics.
Our guest today is writer and podcaster Rachel Feltman.
Woo-woo.
Say hello to the listeners, Rachel.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
We are so happy to have you here. I'm a big fan of your work. Why don't you tell the listeners about it all?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I host a podcast for popular science called The Weirdest Thing I Learned This Week. It's been going for like 6 years now.
Wow.
And it does what it says on the tin. We talk about just the weirdest stuff we can find from, it's mostly like history and science, but we get some like curveballs in there too, and we have a lot of guests, so there's a lot of variety. I think it's a lot of fun, and
it is a lot of fun. As a longtime listener, let me tell you, also, I've learned so many random things on your show, and the one that has stuck with me the most is I learned what a chainsaw was invented for.
You know what? That one haunts many a listener.
It also sometimes helps me with, like, I have a bit of, like, medical queasiness.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm, like, really trying to get over that. So some episodes I'm like, okay, give me strength.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you know what? Like, I have heard from several people that they kind of use weirdest thing as, like, immersion therapy.
Yes.
Exposure therapy, where they're like, I know you'll never take it too far, and you talk about things that are icky.
It's a safe space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a new fan, a new listener, but I have thoroughly been enjoying listening to I'm just like, let me just pick a random episode on my way to and from Northern Virginia, which
were you in Northern Virginia today?
I sure was, but
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Hey, it's okay because I had a very entertaining podcast to take me through the 2.5 hour traffic. So.
Oh my gosh.
Rachel, since you're not from here, I assume you're not from the DC metro area, but I'm pretty sure that at some point some publication said that exact stretch of highway is like the worst drive in the country or something like that.
I believe it. I lived in DC for all of, I think, 8 months for work,
Yeah,
and
enough.
I said, send me back. Marty Barron, send me back.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, besides Weirdest Thing, I just started hosting a show for Scientific American called Science Quickly. It's totally different. It's 3 times a week. It's science news. But I like to think
That's cool.
I still bring a little bit of fun vibes over there. And I also wrote a book called Been There, Done That, A Rousing History of Sex, which is,
Amazing.
it's just all about sex. The whole history of sex. And you might say, why would you try to write a book about that? That's too much to write a book about. And I would say, correct. But I just had fun with it. So
yeah, when I loved that book, and I listened to the audiobook, which you
I did narrate
right?
it. Yeah.
Ooh, love
Which
that.
is awesome. Yeah, we love a writer who can also speak, which that sounds like a
always,
joke, but like a lot of writers cannot also read out loud. But when I recommend it to people, I'm like, been there, done that. Rousing History of Sex. It's a great book. You'll love it. It starts with duck penises. Don't let that dissuade you.
That was one of those things that when I was writing, I was like, there's no way they're gonna let me keep this, and then it turns out they did. So yeah, it starts with like 2,000 words on duck penises. But yeah, that's pretty much my thing. I am a freelancer now, and I spend a lot of time podcasting and theoretically also some time writing books about weird shit. But we'll see. TBD.
Awesome. Oh, well, I'm obsessed with all your work. Your book, top-notch book with a top-notch title, I gotta say.
Thank you so much.
I highly recommend it to everyone. There's a link in the show notes, and I'm just so excited to get you on the pod, Rachel.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking me on. as I was saying before we started recording, like, this is a show concept that I did not know your show existed, and I had, like, manifested it. I had been like, why aren't there more podcasts talking about cringe fan fiction? Because that was such a huge part of my life. Obviously not exclusively fan fiction, but I will say that when I told a friend of mine I'm going on a podcast where I'm supposed to read something or talk about something I wrote that was really cringe, he said, are you seriously going to read them your heroes fan fiction from when you were 14? And I said, no. And he said, that's probably for the best. But
Well, we would love to have you back.
Now we know there's more material, so thanks for sharing.
More. Before we get into the episode, tell the listeners, please, what your pronouns are.
yeah, I am equally happy with she, her, or they, them.
Awesome. I feel the same way, I'm definitely not he, him,
No.
but pretty much anything else works.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of, like, ethos, I'm like, yeah, all pronouns are fine. But it is true that if someone he, him'd me, I would be like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, like, where are you getting that from? And also, no.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
you.
it's like, listen, gender's an illusion. I literally, my other laptop has a sticker that says gender is an illusion. Open your mind open your heart for your mind. So, but yeah, whatever.
Hell yeah. Gender's an illusion, which is why we get to pick our own pronouns and just vibe the way we want to. And I love that for us.
Totally. Rachel, what's been cringing you out this week?
Yeah, I guess one thing that comes to mind is that I made my first TikTok video in a while because they found microplastics in penis tissue, and that's not a surprise because there are microplastics literally like everywhere they've looked. Like microplastics show up in the snow in Antarctica, which, pretty far away from most plastic. Wow. In the air above Mount Fuji, that's the one that really gets me because, like, you don't like to think about microplastic in the clouds up in the sky. And yeah, in like lots of human tissue. There was actually a really recent study that found them in testicles. So again, it's like we knew they were there, but this is the first study being like confirmed microplastics are in dicks. And
One more reason not to love them.
Yeah, happy Pride.
yeah. I did a TikTok about it because I was like, will this finally get us to deal with the plastic pollution problem?
Threaten their penises. That's a great way to do it.
It's true. The penises are on the line officially. But I do find, I don't think that microplastics in penises are more cringe than the other places we found them, but it is pretty cringe. So, yeah.
It is pretty cringe. I remember when our friend was pregnant, she had to quit eating food out of plastic because they've found microplastics in umbilical cords and stuff like that.
Yeah. Ah! The truth is that they are unavoidable, but all of the scientists I've seen speak to this say it does make a difference to not consume stuff out of plastic, and especially not consume stuff out of heated plastic. So
it's the number one thing I fuss at my husband about.
You know what? My husband actually got me to stop doing that because I used to be. It's not that I didn't know it was bad, but I was kind of like, the world is on fire, man. What are we gonna do?
The way that I let myself get sunburned because I'm like, I'm gonna get cancer somehow.
Yeah, I'm like, listen. I got so many microplastics in there. What's the point? But he's very always been very fastidious about avoiding excess plastic in our food and whatever. So anyway, yeah, if people are freaked out about it, as they should be, you should definitely call your elected officials because it's not something we did per se. But one thing people can do personally is not eat out of plastic containers. So
Okay.
Protect your dicks.
Yeah.
Don't eat out of plastic.
I mean, isn't latex somewhat plastic, or is that a different element? I'm so dumb. I don't know anything.
Are you eating
No,
out of
that's
latex?
not
No,
dumb.
I'm thinking about condoms, on the dicks.
That's not dumb at all. And actually, latex is a natural rubber, from
it is.
like at least some latex is like from plants. I'm sure there's synthetic latex now. I don't know. But so like non-latex condoms, I would say, are more likely to have microplastics. That being said, safe sex is very important, and you're exposed to microplastics every day. So don't use microplastics as an excuse not to put on a condom.
Oh my God, but some men would.
I know.
Yeah.
What about the micro humans? What about the
really.
micro STDs?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the micro that is the least of your problems when it is time to put on a condom. It's the microplastics.
Okay, so stop reheating your food in the plastic Tupperwares. Keep wearing condoms.
Yeah, that's
what
you
the
heard it
right
here
teaching
first.
is. Lila, what's cringing you out this week?
What's cringing me out? I had a beloved relative that I went out to dinner with this past weekend. And
You said before we started recording you weren't going to do any more family
I can't
ones.
think of anything else. And I'm not saying who they are in relation to me or what their name is.
Could be anyone.
But you know who you are if you're listening. They're not listening. And we were out to dinner, and this person had held the door open for like two ladies who were leaving, and made a comment after the door was closed and they had left about that butch one really had a problem with me opening the door for her. And I was like, what? And then they were like, yeah, you know, I don't even want to say it. Because I'm not a lesbian, so I feel like I can't say it. It was just like
the D word.
the DYKE. He's like, you know, they get like that sometimes. And he kept saying it, and he's old, and he kept I already said he kept saying it, and he kept saying it
Sometimes
so loud.
you like can assume gender, I think.
Yeah. And
It's true. There was no doubt in my mind the gender of the individual.
Yeah.
That reeks of manhood.
Yeah. And kept saying the word like so loud, and I was just like, it's just
What?
my automatic reaction to things like this. Like, I just don't know how to keep my mouth shut. I kind of never have, but I definitely don't know how to keep my mouth shut anymore, and I don't feel like I should. So I was just like, I did say something along the lines of like, hey, like, you really shouldn't say that. Like, that word's not cool anymore. And he's like, they call themselves that, and I'm like, that's not.
That's the point. It's an in-group. Oh my God.
I know, but I was like,
We
am
all
I
know.
going to
Everyone
convince?
listening knows.
But you know what I said to myself at that moment, Leela? Are you going to convince this person to change their mind right here and now in public?
Probably not.
Probably not. Are you going to ruin everyone's night if you try to? Probably.
Oh,
So
that's very thoughtful of you.
I'm working on it. It's hard because sometimes there's people that I feel are just inherently wrong and I'm right, and I don't understand why they don't align with me. And if they can't align with me, then I feel like it's not a safe space anyway. So we moved forward, but I definitely like put a damper on that person's evening. I could tell he was like not
Whatever,
paying
man.
attention to
That's fair.
conversation anymore, and got over it.
Do you remember
eventually,
Do you remember when we read that clippy erotica on the show and
Yes.
the girl was like, I'm so independent. When someone opens a door for me, I go find another door.
Yes. Tina, what has been cringing you out this week?
So something that I've been thinking about lately is like, I am a big weed smoker. Brag, I know. I've been a big weed smoker for all of my adult life. And so, like, I really love weed, but, like, now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, is this, like, a time when I want to be high? You know, like, instead of just, like, always being blasted. And, like, I have slowed down smoking weed at parties because it just, like, literally does make you less social.
Yeah.
And, like, over this weekend, I was at my friend Taylor's bachelorette party. Y'all probably know Taylor, and if you don't, you should listen to the Patreon episode that came out a couple days ago, because she's on it. But I was like, we were just drinking and having a good time, and then I smoked a joint, and I could just, like, feel myself. I was like, man, I don't remember how to have organic dialogue anymore. I messed up. And I just, like, I'm sure nobody Oh, no, Taylor literally noticed. Wait, because this is the funniest, cutest thing that has ever happened. Taylor doesn't smoke weed. She's an angel. And she said, are you okay? And I said, you know, me, like, way too perky. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And she said, oh, you did your weed thing. You did your weed thing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so lame. So anyway, that's my journey. So that cringed me out. Probably no one noticed except for Taylor. But yeah. Anyway, just trying to think about when do I want to be really high. And usually in the middle of a party is not when I want to be high.
See, that is when I have the inclination to smoke. That's like I kind of like don't want to keep drinking so much. I'd rather just smoke. But
I'm the opposite. Like I'm like a tank when it comes to alcohol.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, because remember at Courtney's birthday party there was the inside group and the outside group, and never shall the two may twain,
Yeah.
you know?
It's just, yeah, and then sometimes the outside kids, aka the ones who aren't smoking weed so much, you know, get a little bit like, oh, well, look at you. I guess you hate everyone. Fuck you.
Nobody gets like that.
That's
Literally
sort of the
no one
vibe
gets
I
like
got.
that. No, I remember it was Freddie's birthday, and Freddie, I was like, I want to go smoke. I want to go hit the joint, but I don't want to get stuck in the couch. And Freddie was like, me too. He was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go inside. We're both going to hit the joint. And we're going to come right back outside. In 10 minutes, we'll be right back outside. And I was like, okay. All right, let's go.
Gotta have an accountability partner. I guess.
So anyway, I guess the cringiest part of that to me is like, I don't know. You know, I feel old. I'm like, you gotta slow down sometimes.
Yeah. It has to
But that's
happen
fine.
to all of us at some point, I guess.
I guess. I'm just thinking about all my friends' parents who are like, I can't smoke this weed that kids be smoking these days. And I never want to be like that. Okay, well, anyway, let's get down to business. Rachel, tell us briefly about what you have brought us today. And we can dive into some more details once we've done the reading.
Yeah, so I have brought both an article that I had published in the Atlantic in 2013. That's like a pretty straightforward, like, science article about, like, why we think certain things smell good and, like, how scent factors into our memory and stuff. But I have also brought the original lead of the article, which, thank God, the editor cut out. I have some thoughts about the execution of their edits overall. I don't remember who the fuck edited this piece, and I'm sure they don't either. But,
At the Atlantic 11 years ago.
yeah, exactly. But I am eternally grateful that they cut this lead because it is truly about a guy I dated for all of 60 seconds. And it was just, I don't know why it felt good to write it at the time. I remember that it felt good to write it. So yeah, this is my cringe.
Okay, so do you want to read just the lead and then, like, describe the article, or do you want to read both? / I'm not sure if we're allowed to just, like, read Atlantic
Definitely, I think we don't have to read the whole article.
Okay, it's a great article, not cringy at all.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
the true cringe
it's
lies
fine.
here.
I'm not embarrassed of it. It was kind of a, I don't know. Another of my editors would use the term nothing burger. Like, what is the point of this article? The point is that I had to write something for school, and I decided I wanted to write about how this guy smells.
Oh my God, this is actually so similar to last week's episode because for Pride Month, we had one of our friends on the show to read an article that he wrote for his college newspaper about how he, like, finally had a boyfriend. And that he was like, this is news for the whole school.
I love that for him. I love that for him.
And they're married. 10 years later, they're married now. So.
That's shocking. Truly.
So we brought the husband on the show, too.
It truly is shocking. Once you
really-
listen to it, you'll agree.
My heart's grown 3
Honestly,
sizes.
I was, like, surprised his husband was like, you know, he just gets like this sometimes. He wasn't even embarrassed at all. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will read the lead, which I hadn't looked at in 11 years until today.
I'm shocked you found this. This is crazy. I'm so excited. So, at your leisure.
I didn't realize how much I missed him until I caught a whiff of him on my pillow, like being catapulted heart first. It can happen to you on the street when a stranger passes in a cloud of familiar perfume, or in the privacy of your own blankets when an evanescent trace of dryer sheets, ivory soap, and sweat invades your consciousness, launching you back into the arms of someone who isn't there and hasn't been in weeks. What is it that makes someone smell good? I know I've smelled all these smells before, and they never used to make me lean in for another heart-wrenching whiff. How do we come to link everyday smells with particular people? And what's that indescribable something extra that makes a blanket smell like more than the sum of its parts? Not just soap and cologne, but him. And it was definitely in italics. Him.
Italics. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the original lead that thankfully was cut. And the rest of the article is truly just like, wow, we get attached to certain smells. They're connected to memory. Some people say that's pheromones, but humans don't have pheromones. What's the research on that like? And it is kind of awkward because the editor just like chopped that lead off and I guess was like, but otherwise this is really good. Like, I'm going to save her from embarrassing herself with this fucking lead. But then it's weird because I like, it kind of jumps back into first person partway through in a way that doesn't make sense. So I would have edited it differently. But overall, the rest of the article is like, does not, I don't feel any particular way about it.
The first sentence of the published article is, what makes someone smell good?
Yeah.
So it like takes all the artful stuff you wrote and it's like, okay, but the question is.
Yeah.
I like the description underneath the title, which is the smell of love. What is that? Lemon oil? Axe?
Yeah. Excellent deck. Yeah. It's funny. We were doing an episode of Weirdest Thing, and Amanda, one of our frequent guests, was talking about why she likes sniffing her cat so much.
Oh my God, yes. I remember that. And I was like, me too.
Apparently very common. And it was in the course of that conversation that I was like, wow, you know what, guys? I wrote a really cringe article about this guy I'd been on like, a few dates with. And we're friends now. I'm actually supposed to get dinner with him later this week.
Oh,
Sorry,
wow.
Jeff. But it's like, but it was just like a very 21-year-old Rachel problem where I was like, but why doesn't he want to go on more dates with me?
I was going to say, like, how on earth were you writing for The Atlantic in 2013 and you were young as hell? That's the answer.
Yes, I was young as hell. I went to college a couple years early and then went straight into grad school because I was a fucking idiot.
That's not usually why you go to college early and go straight to grad school, but okay.
Well, I really thought, I don't know, I just needed to keep chugging along and making progress. And honestly, I could have probably taken a wee break, but I didn't. And so that's how I ended up being 21 with the power to pitch an article to The Atlantic because I was interning at Quartz, which was in the same parent company at the time.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very dangerous to be 21 and have people willing to publish you because you'll write about a guy who's really into swing dancing and smells like laundry.
Well, Rachel, do us a solid, back it up a little bit and tell us about your like history with writing and as a writer and how that ties into your science.
Yeah.
And when all that started.
Yeah. In retrospect, I always loved writing. There were definitely periods as a kid where I was like, I'm going to be a screenwriter, I'm going to be a playwright. But then I think very early on, like as an adolescent, I decided that I was not a good enough writer to pursue that for a career. And
that's very like self-aware for someone so young.
Yeah, I think I was a little too like serious and like pseudo practical for my own good as an adolescent.
Yeah.
But I was really into science as well, and honestly, like I sort of became hooked on the idea of becoming a scientist because I was obsessed with the show Heroes. And then shortly thereafter, Michael Crichton's book about genetics, Next, came out, and I was like, genetics is where it's at, man.
I haven't read that yet, but I own it. So literally $150. I haven't read it yet, but I own it.
So true. So true.
I love Michael Crichton.
Yeah, he's it's been years, but I'm not going to say almost all of his books because I think he's written a lot of books, but I read like 10 Michael Crichton books in the course of like a year.
Wow.
And I got to circle back to some of them because they really, that man can just, he can craft a plot.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, some of his that I love just since I love Jurassic Park, obviously.
Yeah.
Although I read that in Puerto Rico, cannot recommend that. You're going to see dinosaurs around every corner. I also love Sphere.
Okay,
Did you read Sphere?
I haven't read Sphere because, for reasons completely unknown to me, my parents had me watch Sphere with them when I was like 6 years old.
Too scary.
Yeah, it was traumatizing. So I'll never be able to read Sphere, R.I.P. But I do love the Andromeda Strain. Timeline
classic.
is a good one. And Next, yeah.
Okay.
Loved Next.
Maybe I'll read that next.
Yeah. Whoa. Whoa. So yeah, and when I say it's funny that like Heroes is what made me be like, it's genetics, I'm gonna be a scientist, this is my career, is because I wrote a lot of Heroes fan fiction. So that's really where
love that
Hayden
Yeah.
Panettiere show, right? The little cheerleader. Yeah. Save the cheerleader, save the world. That one.
I was obsessed with that show. I stayed with it past the writer's strike. It objectively got very bad. I rewatched it like a decade ago, and I was like, honestly, I still like it, but I couldn't defend it to anyone.
Yes, I'm currently rewatching Once Upon a Time, which is like very similar, where it's like, I cannot explain to you why anyone would want to watch this, but I cannot look away.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, even once I decided I was like, I'm going to be a scientist, that was also around the time that I became a prolific consumer and producer of fan fiction. And that continued into and through college. And then sometime around there, I had kind of like a mini existential crisis because I had transferred from my tiny school to go to Boston University so that I could go to like a real college that was big. And then I hated it, and I decided to go back to my tiny college, and I was like, what am I even, what do I want to do?
Who am I?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so hard.
Yeah.
You have to just try everything, you know what I mean?
It's
There's
true.
like literally no other way
I
to
still
know.
don't know who I am. So
Same.
I don't know how I thought I was going to figure it out when I was 18, but but yeah, that's when I stumbled upon a grad program for science journalism, and that was kind of the first time it occurred to me that all of these like nonfiction science books I was reading were like written by people who like sought out to write about science. They weren't like, some of them were scientists who accidentally became writers, but most of them, had like very deliberately sort of married, those things.
Yes, you can really tell. I recently read Three Body Problem.
Oh, yeah.
And like reading it the whole time, I was like, there is no way that this was written by someone other than a physicist.
Totally.
Like, there's no way a layperson wrote this because I'm very lost.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, long story short, I was like, okay, I like science and I'm good at explaining it to people. And I didn't want to get like more specialized in science. I liked kind of like learning new stuff all the time, which is, as you might be able to tell from my weird podcast. So yeah, that's how I got into journalism. And I've been like slowly oozing into all the different corners of media since. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you wrote, and so is Been There, Done That, is that your first book?
It is my first book. That came out in May of 2020. And that was like a pretty long-term project.
Books are for real.
Yeah, yeah.
They are fucking for real.
They are real fucking for real. And I do want to write some more books, and I want to write fiction to actually publish and not just for fans,
Ooh. Cool.
But life is long, so I'm not.
Maybe you'll
No
be a
rush.
bit of a Rachel Creighton up in here.
Oh, wow. How exciting.
Where were you in this journey that you were pitching articles to The Atlantic? Like, where were you in your career? Like, what were you going for?
Yeah. This was when I was a grad student at NYU, and I was specifically, there's a program in their J school for science and health journalism. Ooh. So it was like very focused, very small. It was a lot of fun. And we were required to do 2 internships, so I did 3. I wasn't the only person who did that. My roommate Ariel and I were both like, well, I guess we'll do 3 then. And
that's very funny.
Yeah.
It's making sense to me now how you got through so much school so quickly.
Yes.
Because I was the kind of student who would be like, 2 internships. Let's see if I can do like 1 lazy one at the library where nobody asks
much
any
wiser
questions.
way to tackle life, honestly. But my second internship was at Quartz, which was like a startup at the time owned by the Atlantic. And, I was going to class. I was also writing a bunch of stuff for Quartz as an intern. And it was mostly like tech news. It was really funny. I would write like think pieces on phablets and stuff. It was very
What's a
weird.
phablet?
When phones were getting big for the first time, and people were like, "It's a phone tablet." Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
But I had a lot of, I had fun with it. Like one time, I covered a new startup by one of the founders of PayPal that was like a fertility app. And the headline I wrote was the co-founder of PayPal wants to put a baby inside you.
I'd read that.
Very good.
I would read that.
Very good.
Yeah, got really mixed reviews, highs and lows. But I've kind of been known throughout my career for really making some editors really nervous with my headlines. There was Uranus is Full of Surprises was
That's so good.
my best one at the Washington Post.
That's genius.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's genius.
Thank you. There was, for like a long time, there were several like prominent people on Twitter who had a screenshot of that headline as their header image, and I would always be like, "You're welcome."
What a compliment.
It's really of an era. We can never go back to that time.
Do you know that there's like punning competitions?
Yes, I
think
do.
you'd be pretty good at that, Rachel.
See, I think I would get too nervous, but
Because it's live. It's
yeah,
different.
yeah. But I love a pun run. I love like listening to people go on a pun run. So maybe
People
one
are
day.
just so damn funny.
Yeah.
Not us, am I right?
But yeah, where was I in life? I guess I was writing a lot of stuff for Quartz, but it was all tech stuff. But they were like, if you write something that doesn't fit on Quartz but might fit on the Atlantic, like we'll sort of help you. I didn't even have to really like formally pitch it. They kind of like passed it along for me after it had gotten rejected from like I think Slate and Salon and a bunch of stuff.
And when you're like a new writer or like a writer early in your career, they really do tell you like publish literally as much as you can.
Exactly.
Like just write and get out there as much as you can. And
Yeah.
it's hard.
It is really hard. And I was very bad about pitching outside of my internships. I was like, listen, I got the internship. I'm churning out a bunch of clips for them. You want me to also humiliate myself every day by cold emailing other people. So, this felt like an important shot to take. But yeah, the piece itself, I'm pretty sure it was a grad school assignment. And it was truly inspired by me being like, wow, now, like, this guy smelled like laundry. So now every time I smell laundry, I'll think of him forever.
That is so cool that that guy smelled like laundry, though. Because there are so many worse things to smell.
It's true. So yeah, it's just it captures this very specific kind of sad moment in my life.
But like so relatable. So like I do kind of want to talk about the smell thing a little bit because we are a podcast that talks about like nostalgia and stuff. Like I would love to talk about this concept before we get into roasting your leaf that got cut. Because, like, I mean, Leela, do you get this? Like, do you have these, like, emotional reactions to smells?
Absolutely.
Sometimes?
I feel like it's, and I've got a keen smeller on me. Like, I really feel that I just, in comparison to, like, especially, like, sometimes I'll be like, do you smell that? And then, like, usually I'm the only one in the room that smells it. Like, it's at that type of vibe. And I definitely, like, relate to smells so much. And I can definitely, like, I can smell somebody and be like, oh, that's my friend Anna's perfume. Like, like, that's Anna. Like, even if it's on somebody else. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, that's so funny because our friend Anna does have, like, very lovely perfume, and she wears it more consistently than anyone I know. So it's very funny.
Specific
you just
example.
pulled that name randomly.
No, specific. Yeah, and like
She has great perfume.
I remember when I was first started dating, my husband, right around this time that this was written, actually, that I found it so hard to get up in the morning, and it's so corny and lame, but it was because, and I still do this kind of, but it's because, like,
okay, we know how you are.
His snuggle smell is so, like, intoxicating. Like, it smells like go back to bed. Like, that's like what it tells my brain.
Oh yeah. Okay. So my husband Sean's been traveling lately, and we're right in the middle of 2 weeks where, like, he was out of town, then I was out of town, then he was out of town, and we overlapped by, like, 1 hour, and we ate sushi. And so, like, I miss him. And this morning, he's not going to be home for another week. And this morning, I was like, damn, these sheets do need to be changed. And I was like, but it won't smell like him if I would change the sheets.
Yeah. It's so weird how that works. Yeah. I mean, I would remember even, like, getting ready, and I'd be like, I could smell it still on my t-shirt or whatever I was wearing, and I'd be like, it's like I took a whiff and it's like, go back to bed.
Damn, you do have a keen sense of smell. Rachel, like, what about you other than this specific man?
Yeah, thankfully this was not the one man I ever thought smelled good. Yeah, I'm very fascinated by scents. I think I do have a pretty good sense of smell, and I often will, like, have the thought when I'm in an area where I, like, smell someone's BO, I'll be like, it's so weird that if I loved that person, I would think this smelled good now. I mean, maybe not awesome, because even people you love can be, like, too stinky.
Yes.
But, you know, it's still just, like, an oversaturation of, like, their smells. And so, yeah, I think a lot about, like, I'm not going to say that I, like, have a totally empathetic view of, like, BO on somebody, but I do always try to, like, reframe it. Like, isn't it weird that this smells bad to me? I probably am making similar odors myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, you know, it's wild how our brains tune out the smells we encounter constantly, because otherwise we'd, like, actually go insane from, like, over stimulus, because, like, you know, so you're really dulled. I think part of I think why our partners and family members smell either, like, neutral or really good to us depending on the situation is because our noses and brains have really tuned out all their more pungent smells. Yeah. Because otherwise, that's all we think about all the time.
And there's, like, some kind of emotional connection there, too, you know, that it's, like, no matter what the smell is, your brain is like, well, this is a good smell. Even if it doesn't smell good, this is, like, a friendly smell.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, and I think I definitely am, like I, like, put on my husband's t-shirts when I miss him and he's out of town, you know, and I don't think about it very overtly that it's, like, the smell that I'm after. Maybe I just really like that one Nine Inch Nails t-shirt, which I definitely do. But I think for me, when it comes up the most is when I walk into a space and it smells like people who are my people.
Yes.
It's, like, really, really comforting to me to walk into a room or a house and be like, this smells like my friends, this smells like my family.
Or, like, I was just out of town for, like, 5 days, and, like, I had a great time while I was gone, but, like, walking back into my own home, I'm like, you know, like, it's like the whole package, including the smell, is like, oh, this is my place.
Totally. And then sometimes you have to sniff your cat.
Oh my God.
And that's also relevant.
Okay, so I have 4 cats, and like only the one of them though has. Is he there? No, it's only the one of them like smells like so good. They all smell fine. They're not like dogs. I'm not a dog person, but
Dogs can get stinky.
my cat,
too.
I am just I like I'm like huffing him. I'm like, and he's like, "Mommy, what are you doing?"
Yeah, I have really bad cat allergies, and I have 2 cats because I guess I just like hate myself. So if I buried my face in my cat,
Get
I
allergy
might die.
shots, girl.
Yeah, I know. It's such a commitment and it takes so long. But I know. At some point I'll do that.
Oh my God, who are you talking to? The girl who's been getting allergy shots for 5 years.
I'm just not as like responsible about scheduling and commitment as you. I just don't know that I could do it. You know, I couldn't even keep up with birth control. Like, I don't know. I don't know, but eventually I'll do it.
Okay, don't lie to everyone listening.
They can't see my face. Yeah, but I do wonder sometimes, like, with my husband, like, he's the youngest of his siblings, and I remember once when we were much younger and like first starting dating, we were on like a family vacation with his family, and his brother was like, at one point was like, "Oh God, he stinks. How do you stand it?" to me, and I'm like, I think he smells really good. I don't smell that at all.
Oh my God, classic brother shit.
It really is. Yeah, like you always especially like
brotherly,
shit on
straight up,
the
yeah.
youngest sibling, for sure.
For me, I feel like smell nostalgia in my life has been like also very linked to grief. Not to like bring it down too much, but I lost my grandparents on my dad's side when I was like 13, 14, and I lost my grandma because we don't care about the grandpa on my mom's side maybe like 2 years ago. And for me, like to this very day, I'll get like just out in the world, I'll get a whiff of something that reminds me of like Nana and Papa's house, which I have not been to in 20 years. And it's like such a trigger. Like I'm like already crying.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like such like a gut punch.
Yeah.
So it is really incredible how smell can be linked to your emotions like that. On the flip side, I haven't had to smell Axe in like 15 years either, and that I'm cool with that. The men in my life have more mature sense now, but Axe, when I was dating in high school, Axe was like my whole brain was like full of Axe smell, and I just like wanted to pursue it.
Yeah. I mean, we were all on that train, I think.
So, Rachel, your article talks about like, okay, so I guess you say that humans don't have pheromones, but like, okay, on the flip side of that, when we're talking about Axe or when we're talking about this lead that got deleted from this article, like when you are newly in a relationship with someone, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, isn't your brain like dumping a bunch of drugs in your brain to be like, you love this person, you are hypnotized by love and Axe body spray.
Yeah, well, totally. And, you know, pheromones are like specifically, it's when one organism is creating a hormone that is detected through like organs around the nose by another organism, and that like affects their behavior or like does something to them. Humans, we don't need pheromones to do that. It's true. When, you know, like sex and kissing and gazing into each other's eyes and lots of other stuff can give you a whole bunch of chemical boosts that like just give you that like rush and euphoria and giddiness that we associate with being with someone new. And then, yeah, I mean, like, you know, basically, you know, not to oversimplify it, I'm sure there are psychologists who would like kick me in the face for putting it this way, but like in a sort of Pavlovian way, all of the stimuli that we associate with that person when we're getting that like chemical high are gonna, you know, we're gonna feel really positively about them.
Hence the Axe obsession.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, yeah, they're all also like, you know, humans, there is like an ongoing debate whether like there's some vestigial response to something like pheromones that humans might have. But there's just lots of people have studied this, and like the fact that no one has found a human pheromone that humans definitely respond to, like, you know, there's been enough research on it that I think that probably means it's not really a thing. Though I don't know. Bodies are weird and everybody's different. So like
It's hard to prove a negative, but the more you go without finding it, the closer you get to proving the negative.
Yeah. That being said, like, our brains do react to particular chemicals from out in the world for various reasons, whether it's because, like, deep in our evolutionary past, something with that chemical compound was important.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for our survival.
Yeah.
So just because they're not like hormones that are being produced and inducing specific behavior in us, that doesn't mean there aren't chemical compounds that don't tend to make a lot of humans be like, ooh, wow, nice, sexy. So I think, you know, Axe and better colognes than Axe can certainly have stuff in them that at least some people will be like, I don't know why, but this is a very sexy smell. So sexy. And yeah.
I don't know anything about scents, but my husband loves to wear his David Beckham cologne.
Ooh.
I haven't smelled the David Beckham cologne, but I'd believe it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think of Bex as being a man of taste.
Totally.
Yeah, and he's sort of like notoriously sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I think it's a pretty old cologne. I kind of haven't heard about him in like 10 years.
The last time I heard about him was that meme of him really reading his wife for filth over the Bentley story.
What?
Which made me really like him a lot more. They were in a documentary like about being the Beckhams, and she was trying to say that she'd grown up working class, and he was like, Victoria, what kind of car did your dad drive? And she was like, no, it's complicated because like there were, and he was like, no, what kind of car did he drive? And she said, well, that year he was driving a Bentley.
Okay, that's very funny. I respect that. I do respect that.
Yeah. So
we love a self-aware
if nothing
king.
else, I know that David Beckham did that recently, and that's a win in my book.
Okay, so I do want to look at the actual text now. I do think that if a professional scientific article had started with the line, I didn't realize how much I missed him until I caught a whiff of him on my pillow, perhaps you would have lost a lot of listeners before they got to the second line.
Yeah. It's a little like Penthouse confessional or something. I don't know.
Yes, or like so today in a little free library, well, first of all, I learned something today. Did you guys know that Stephanie Meyer wrote a gender-bent Twilight?
Not till you told me.
I don't know how I haven't heard of this.
That sounds so fun.
It's called Life and Death, Twilight Reimagined, and Stephanie Myers wrote that. How has no one heard of this? I am so deep in Twilight fandom, and I learned about it today because I found it in a little free library. And so I've been thinking about Twilight all day. So
the text?
Yeah, I have the book, Leela. We can cover it on the show.
Okay, let's fucking do it. That sounds so fun, honestly.
It's much shorter than Twilight, so.
Okay, great. Already off to a good start.
Because I've had Bella Swan on the brain all day.
Bill Swan?
I think it's Beau in the gender bent version.
Wow.
Okay.
Is it Edwina?
No, it's some name that I've never seen before. It's like Edith, but like with a Y.
Yeah, the woman who gave us Renesmee, of course, she fucking would.
I've also been roasting strangers on the internet about Renesmee today because I'm in a name shaming group on Facebook called the group where you can only suggest names that don't suck. And somebody literally said, I'm trying to name my kid after my father and my husband's father, and they're trying to spell it. And I'm like, please don't do a Renesmee on your kid.
Don't do a Renesmee.
And then they said, what the fuck is a Renesmee? And then I had to like explain it. Anyway, so this is giving me Bella Swan. I didn't realize how much I missed him until I caught a whiff of him on my pillow where he lays watching me sleep for 8 hours a night.
It's funny, when I was looking for the original lead, I was scrolling through because here's what's really embarrassing is that I sent this to the guy I was about.
Yes. Yes.
Oh
And
my god.
so I thought maybe scrolling back in our Facebook messages was where I was going to find it. And I have to say, again, sorry, Jeff, but in my head, I was like, I was such a crazy 21-year-old who really like gave him such a hard time for just not wanting to date me. And looking back at our messages, I was like, no, he was really fucking with my 21-year-old heart. He really asked for it. He was being bad news bears.
But it sounds like he's experienced some character development.
Like breadcrumbing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was just like, you know, I think truly, it was not from a bad place. I have dated some genuinely terrible men and had some really seriously bad experiences. That was not the case here. I think genuinely this was like a gregarious, I love everybody kind of guy. And it's just that men who feel that way should not date 21-year-olds who want to find their one true love. They should leave those girls alone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very confusing, flirtatious friendship for a few years. And then we all moved on, and it was good.
Yeah.
And then...
Isn't that a great part of growing up is just moving on?
It's true. So true. But, yeah, really so schlocky.
Wait, what is that word you said?
Schlocky?
What is that?
Like...
Is that Yiddish?
I think it must be. It's like...
Schmaltzy. Oh,
yeah,
that's just
it's
another
very,
Yiddish.
Very
Sorry.
similar, but very similar to schmaltzy. It's like, It's like goopy, sickeningly.
Well, when they talk about like schlock movies, those are like B movies or like fun bad movies. Like,
I just looked it up, and I guess it's just anything of poor quality. I think of it as being like,
like campy or like gaudy.
Yeah.
Okay,
but it's just anything bad, I guess.
Anything bad. Hey, if there's one thing about people who speak Yiddish, it's that they love to talk shit. And I know that from my Nana.
It's very true.
Leela, do you have any notes about the text?
You know what? Like, I don't think it's really that poorly written at all. Like, compared to many other texts that we have witnessed, it's well written. I get the feeling that you were, and I kind of hate this word because I feel like it's only used for little girls, but quite a precocious child.
Oh yeah, it is only used for, if you're a Hermione type, you get called precocious. No boys.
Yes.
I was precocious.
Hermione, Mara Wilson. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can kind of, I mean, like, I can tell, like, you're just, we're a very smart kid. Like, I thought that I wrote well when I was 21 years old. I did not, in fact. And I mean, I wouldn't say this is, like, well written, but it's really not, it's not as embarrassing as you think. So just to make you feel a little bit better.
I appreciate that. Honestly, if I hadn't used the word evanescent, I probably would have thought it was way better.
Yes. Well, I had to look up what that even means.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to go to Merriam-Webster's, and I know how to spell. Tending to vanish like vapor. Holy shit. Okay, I didn't even know that at all. Okay, an evanescent trace. Okay, so, Rachel, were you an Evanescence listener?
Oh, absolutely. First CD I bought with my own money.
Oh, hell yeah. And so, like, is that where you learned the word evanescent from?
Oh, for sure. Who else the fuck knows that word?
That's so funny. Okay, and then you Google evanescence, and it's like, you know, when it evanesces, which I fucking hate that.
The process of evanescing.
You're a terrible definition writer, although we do defer to Merriam-Webster, so that's my preference. Well, actually, Rachel, you're a writer. I'll ask you, do you have a preferred dictionary?
I really like Merriam-Webster. Is it mostly because they were really sassy on Twitter for a while? Yes. But it's also, they're a good dictionary, so.
They're a good dictionary. They're what fiction publishing uses, and I've worked in fiction publishing for a long time. And there's a pretty cool story of how Noah Webster like developed his dictionary that maybe we'll talk about on our bonus show where we get to talk about stuff, literary stuff we like. So it's a bit of a trifecta of why I like Webster's. So, okay. So that word evanescent is great. It's great. It's giving right-click synonyms.
Is Ivory soap like a specific brand?
It
is, right?
Yeah. That's like the classic thing that a copy editor will be like, excuse me. I tried to use Tupperware when I meant plastic containers, a recent Science Quickly episode, and they were like, that's a brand. We should just say plastic containers. And I was like, damn it.
Oh, that's one of those ones that's rough, though, because nobody says plastic containers.
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
Nobody says that.
Yeah.
Like, you can get away with tissue, but it feels inorganic to duck the word Tupperware.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like Band-Aid. Like, what else do you even fucking call that?
Yeah, because were we talking about this recently, Leela? Because I feel like I talked to somebody about this recently, about how, like, bandage means something different now. It's,
right,
larger.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't. If I got a paper cut and someone was like, "Do you need a bandage, good lady?" I'd be like, "No, that's not what I need now."
It's like a war doctor is bringing you your bandage.
Yeah, you're wounded. Oh no.
All right. Are there any last words about this piece before we wrap it up from either of you?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I understand why the editor cut this, and I am also glad that they did.
I'm really glad that they did.
And let's just take the opportunity to underline the importance of working with skilled editors.
So important.
Because even if you're an editor by trade, like I am, you still need an editor. Even if you're a strong writer like Rachel is, you still need an editor. Everyone needs an editor because stuff that makes sense in your head does not always translate.
So true.
And also sometimes you just be having typos that your brain just learns to like read past them. And that's wild.
You know, I've worked a lot as an editor over the last few years, and it's also something that I've noticed is that like everybody has a weird, incorrect, terrible turn of phrase or spelling of a word or syntax or sentence construction that they use again and again. And it made me, I started to be like, oh, fuck, what's my thing? Like that. And however many times you fix it and put a note being as unpassive aggressive as possible, being like, hello, I fixed this, they will still make that. Everyone has one thing that they will do again and again. So that's why everyone needs an editor.
It's cute that you say as unpassive aggressive as possible because I think some of the cuntiest I've ever been in my life is like in the middle of like a 400, 500 page long book edit being like, this is not, please clarify, or like whatever the note is like. And when I used to work with fiction authors, I would write a little note being like, hey, love this book. Thank you so much for the honor of letting me read it. And if you catch a tone in the in-text edits, that's just because I'm doing my job and being professional. Don't take it personally. But sometimes you've corrected the same thing 100 times and you're like, I cannot correct this in good faith one more time.
Absolutely.
Leela, do you want to take us home?
Yeah. Okay, so at this point in the show, we like to play a fun little game. You gotta categorize this piece out of 3 different categories. Rachel, do you think that this piece, I guess not the piece, but the, what are we calling it? The intro that got cut?
The lead.
The lead is horny? Yeah. Is it sad? Or is it just plain bad?
I'm going to say it's both horny and sad. Mm-hmm. Leaning more towards sad than horny. But it's definitely both.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree that it's horny and sad. I'm going more on the horny side just because of how I react to smells of people I have loved. Definitely horny, sad. Lilo, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the full horn on this one. It's going to be a full horny for me. Yeah. I don't feel that you were I feel like you were elated when you wrote this, actually. So, And it's certainly not bad at all. Definitely not just plain bad.
Forget not. Leela, forget not that. Where the fuck is it?
I didn't realize how much I missed him. That's
Someone who
what,
isn't there.
there are elements of sad for sure, but it's
Oh,
horny.
yeah.
It's definitely horny. Undeniably.
I mean, you were 21, you said, right, Rachel?
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
horny age.
Yeah.
God, I was so
True.
horny, too.
Like, I'm a
And,
woman now.
like, unsure and horny, it's a dangerous and tumultuous combo. I totally
unsure.
remember those days.
And just the novelty of like a man
Yeah.
who like showers every day, like knows how to shave.
we asked
a
for so
beard.
little.
The bar is on the floor.
Yeah, it's really wild when you're 21 and the first time you date someone who is like a grown adult and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I was really high on that.
Yeah. Just fucking guys who didn't have sheets on their bed. And, like, it's like, oh, my God, you
God.
have sheets on your bed. That's
Yeah,
really
exactly.
cool.
Whoa.
I remember when I was, just as a brief aside, when I was, like, 24, maybe, I was sleeping with this guy who... And this was a deeply, like, I'm not going to date this guy. I'm just fucking him.
Sure, yeah.
He would go to bed every night with a 2-liter of Dr. Pepper in his bed.
Oh my God.
I thought you were going to say like on the floor next to his bed. In his bed is so much better.
He had, like, a bed. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say, like, this old wooden furniture where his headboard kind of was, like, a box? You could, like, it had a corner
Yeah,
in
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So his...
Oh, so it was in
Dr.
his
Pepper
little...
was, like, in the corner of the headboard.
Wow.
This is the same guy. He was just, like, very physically unhealthy and, like, didn't eat in a way that supported his health and then had health problems. And he had, like, 15 empty pizza boxes stacked on top of his dresser. And one time when we were having sex, they all fell down upon my face.
God. That's a sign from the Lord.
Yeah, why do I feel like I've also fucked a dude who had so many empty pizza boxes all around?
Just take them outside. I don't even care if you eat this much pizza. Just take them to the trash can. Anyway,
Well, like,
the bar's
you know
on the
how,
floor.
like, dudes used to, like, keep, and we did too, like, they'd be like, oh, I drank alcohol, so I'm going to keep the bottle as decoration. Like,
Oh,
even
yeah,
that.
what's up with... It's like,
That's so
look
trashy.
at the liquor I drink.
Yeah, it's giving, it's such, like,
No, I
young
definitely
20s
did that in
energy.
college.
Yeah, but, like, pizza boxes ain't like that, man. Like, get that shit out of your house. There's food particles in there, yo.
They smell.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, on that delightful note, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
And remind the listeners where they can find you and your work.
I am on TikTok and Twitter, though I'm like not really on Twitter much anymore, as at Rachel Feltman, just my whole name, Feltman with a T, like the hot dog stand. And I have a Patreon, and you can find that just by searching for Rachel Feltman Patreon. And I post stuff related to Weirdest Thing, but also just like recommendations and like stuff I like and thoughts I have. So yeah, I would say those are the places to track me down. And my shows are The Weirdest Thing I Learned This Week and Science Quickly with Scientific American. So you can listen to those.
Hell yes. And definitely check out their book, Been There, Done That, A Rousing History of Sex. It's very good and accessible. It's not like dense science. You know, it's like very
it's
easy.
Goofy. It's kooky.
Very easy to read. Yeah, great time. And since you mentioned Patreon, I'm going to take the opportunity to remind the listeners that we have a new Patreon that we launched last month. For $1 a month, you can join our Discord server, which is a very fun place to be. And for our $5 a month tier, you get access to our monthly bonus episodes. Last month, we talked about Iron Widow by Jiren J. Zhao,
I
which
love
is
that
extreme.
book.
I'm so glad you do.
Yes.
It's a fucking so metal. It's so good. We had such a good time with Mary Payton from Wildling Press talking about that one. And just a couple days ago, on July 1st, we released our bonus episode about Meet Josefina, the American Girl, with our friend Taylor, which is a very fun episode as well. So we're really excited to keep covering stuff on our bonus show that we like and is good in contrast to the stuff we cover on this show. So please check us out. That's it for Burn Before Reading.
Until next week, remember,
your cringe is part of you,
but only a small, evanescent part of you. Thanks for listening to Burn Before Reading.
Created by me, Christina Kahn.
Hosted and produced by Christina Kahn and me, Leela Hilton.
Logo designed by Michael Hardison. Follow him on Instagram at RoyGBivRVA or check out his work at wildlingpress.com.
Theme music by Sakura Wishes.
Find me online at Christina Kahn.
And find me at Leels for Reels.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and Tumblr at BurnBeforePod.
Or feel free to give us an email at burnbeforepod@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, friends.
See you next time.
Dave X Media.